So this question's trying to be deliberately misleading, at least in the visual here. So when they're talking about this 6 miles horizontally, they really could have just labeled it here and made your life a little bit easier. And notice the goal here is to find how far in miles the plane actually traveled. In other words, they already put a question mark here, so we can call that x. Now, whenever you know 2 of the 3 sides of a right triangle, you're going to apply Pythagorean theorem. In other words, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, where c is the hypotenuse. And in this case, that is our unknown. It's the side across from the right angle. It's the one side not touching this right angle because these two are touching it. And so we're going to go ahead and replace this with x squared. Now here's the little wrench that they threw in here. Notice this is in miles, this is in feet. They want our answer in miles, so we're going to go ahead and have to convert this to miles. Now, whenever you're doing a conversion, I'm a big fan of starting with what you know and then making a table like this, which is basically just showing fractions but in a different format. And because this is in feet, let's give myself a little more space there. So it's because it's in feet, I want the units to go away by cross canceling. So whatever units I want to go away, I need to put diagonal, and then I want miles to take its place. Well, notice they tell us 1 mile is 5,200 feet. You gotta love the standard conversions here that don't really make as much sense as the metric system. Now, we could absolutely divide these, and that would give our answer in miles. However, when I'm gonna write it down here where I have 6 miles squared plus this other value squared, that can get a little bit messy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go alpha y equals enter, and then type in essentially this as a fraction, and then it'll reduce it for me. And Desmos does the same thing. That's really nice about that. So we'll go ahead and put 175 over 66 squared. And then because I already have it in my calculator, I can just press squared, and it's going to take the most recent answer and square it. And then I'm going to do plus 6 squared, in other words, adding 36. And we get this pretty crazy looking fraction. I wouldn't really rewrite it, but because I'm trying to give you a visual of what we're doing, I'm going to do so. But I'll show you what I would just do normally is because I know I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Now, technically I get plus or minus, but because we're talking about a distance, you eliminate the negative answer because it doesn't make sense. And I'm going to go ahead and do the square root. And I could either do second negative, which pulls up the answer, or I could have, let's go back here, I could have pressed up, and when it's highlighting that, I just press enter and it plugs it in there. And when we take the square root, we get this. They say to round our answer to the nearest mile, in other words, the nearest whole number. So we need to look at the number to the right of the decimal, and we know that a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 tells us to round up, whereas a 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0 says stay. So because it's a 5, we round up, and our answer is 7.